Welcome to all. When we frame a curriculum, if it is of utmost proper and very good manner also, if that type of curriculum is not transacted properly, that curriculum development is a waste. In today's session, we will discuss about curriculum transaction. This topic is part of MES 006 Managing Teaching Learning. What do we mean by curriculum transaction? Transacting a curriculum in the real context. That means we frame the curriculum, and the curriculum what we frame is transacting in the teaching learning process. So here the transaction of curriculum, it means in other way we can tell that it is the management of curriculum. This curriculum transaction, the term managing teaching learning and teacher as a manager, it was put forward by I.K. Davis. So here we can see that a teacher is considered as a manager. What are the duties of a manager? That the manager has to plan, control, design everything. So here a teacher is considered as a manager, and there are several steps in curriculum transaction. Let us discuss what are the different steps in curriculum transaction. The first one, planning, next organizing, next administering, then guiding, and then the last one, that is controlling. So these are the various steps of curriculum transaction. Let us have a look on each step. First one, planning. So here the planning means we have to plan any concept or what type of course we have to select. That thing we have to plan. That is an important thing in curriculum transaction. So planning takes a lot of things, and we know that after planning, taking a particular course and what are to be its content, then the organizing will come. So in the organizing matter, what we have to do is that how do we organize the content of the curriculum in various ways. So here we can see that after organizing, in the organization of the curriculum, there are different approaches that we can use in organizing the curriculum. The different approaches may be the thematic approach we can take, or the spiral curriculum we can take. So different types of approaches we can adopt in the organization of curriculum. Then comes administering. How do we administer the curriculum in the actual situation? So here the administering part is related with the actual practicing in the classroom. Then the guiding, how to guide, and last the controlling. So when we look at the teaching learning process, we can see that there are various phases of teaching learning process, and this curriculum has to be planned in such a way that it should be in a proper manner in each steps of curriculum. Next, we will discuss about the basis of curriculum. When we look at the basis of curriculum transaction, we can see there are varieties of things are coming under the basis of curriculum transaction. The first one, the social philosophy of the society. Second one, national or local needs. Third one, nature of course of study. Next, type of examination system. Then form of the content, theory and assumptions of human organization. Next, growth and developmental stage of students. Then recommendations of National Commissions of Education. Let us discuss one by one what is coming under each aspect. So here we can see that the social philosophy of the society. We know that the curriculum usually reflects the nature of society. So every society has its own needs and demands, and it reflects the philosophy of the society. And coming to the next part, we can see the other factors such as the nature of the course of study. So each course has different needs and nature, and according to the nature of the course and the demand of the course, that is an important thing, the market demand, and based on that only we have developed the curriculum. Then what type of examination should be conducted based on that type of course. And the next one, we can see that the developmentally and for each child, the developmental needs are different for each stage. So we can say that the curriculum should be stage specific and age specific. For every child, for different ages, the needs may be different. For different stages, the developmental needs may be different. So based on that, we should frame the curriculum. Then the growth and the developmental stage of the students is also important. And next we can see that what type of theoretical underpinnings are there for the framing of curriculum. For every curriculum, there may be different kinds of theories that are important. So the theoretical underpinnings are coming under the curriculum development. And the next part, what we can see is the recommendations of the national commissions or committees. For example, if we take NEP 2020, there we can see what are the things that the policy is speaking about the school education, the higher education, all those things are coming under, should be reflected when we develop a curriculum. So these all things are coming under the development of curriculum. Next one, what we can see is that creating an effective environment. So here there comes two components, that is classroom climate and layout of the classroom along with the learning resources. So first let me discuss about the classroom climate. What should be the climate of the classroom? So when we think about the climate of the classroom, we can say that it should be conducive to the varying needs of learner. So a favorable climate of classroom is very much needed. For creating the conducive climate or an effective climate learning environment in a classroom, the teacher has to concentrate on various aspects. As well as the second component, the layout of the learning resources, what type of resources we have to use. With the introduction of the ICT, we know that we have a varied and large resources that can be used and utilized in classroom. So here, the next part, that what are the guidelines for conducive environment, that is for an effective environment. So here, the build the classroom trust behavior and allow constructive delivery to continue the unhampered thing. So there we can see that the constructive activity should be allowed in the classroom and encourage learners to make choices and take risks and give non-verbal signals and keep learners involved by holding them accountable for their work, provide learners access to learning resources, and arrangement of the classroom is also important, and then demand functional furniture and equipment and watch for effectiveness of the overall environment in the classroom. So here we have discussed various points what is needed for an effective classroom environment. So when we discuss some of the important things that every teacher should take care is that building a good classroom environment. For that trust between the teacher and the students is very much important. And next one, what we can see is that the engagement of the learners in the classroom is an important part so that the indiscipline aspect can be controlled. So here we can see that the learners should be engaged in varied types of activities where the learner will get an opportunity to mingle with each other and to communicate with each other, and they can understand others' opinion also. And the seating arrangement of the classroom, how do we make the classroom lively? Whether it is in the vertical or horizontal way, where it denotes that the teacher is the dominant person in the classroom, or are we able to arrange the seating arrangement in a way that the learners can interact with each other? For that purpose, what is important is that we can make that group discussion format, the table arrangement in a circle way, so that the learners can interact with each other. So some of the things we have seen. And the next part, that is the techniques and format of lesson planning. So the important thing for a teacher is the preparation of the lesson planning, and there includes the lesson objectives, introduction section, development section, and a closing section. Let us discuss each section wise. So for every lesson plan, we know that there are the general objectives and the specific objectives. So in short, when we quote Bosing's definition of lesson planning, we can state that it is a plan of action. What type of action is taking place? It is taking place in the real classroom situation. So this lesson objectives is an important part. For that, the objectives, it specify what a learner has to attain after the process of instruction. Sometimes the teacher makes a general objectives, and sometimes we can see that after each content, there will be some objectives in the mind of the teacher. So the specific objectives will also be there. So here we can see that the learning outcome, nowadays we use the term learning outcomes. So what type of learning outcomes a learner should achieve after the process of instruction is an important thing. And we can see that the introduction section. So here, not directly the teacher is telling the topic. What is needed is that there should be a link with the previous knowledge of the content. So the introductory topic, that the prerequisite, the knowledge of the learner, what the learner knows, that should be recalled by the teacher. So that recalling of the pre-knowledge of the learner is an important thing. With that aspect, the teacher has to link the present topic. And for that, we can see that the statement of the topic will come, then the developmental section will come. How do we develop? In the developmental section, what is important is that what type of activities the teacher are providing. And there includes, nowadays we can say that though this lesson planning is based on the behavioristic pattern, but now we are giving emphasis upon the constructivist approach. So here how the teacher made the learners to construct their own knowledge is an important thing. And then comes the closing section. That is how the summarizing part is taking place. The summarizing part is an important aspect where the teacher has to recapitulate the main points. So now a format of the lesson plan, which is based on the Herbartian steps, is displayed on the screen. So here we can see that the entry behavior is there, the subject taught, and the topic, the target group, the entry behavior, the general objectives, methods and media, introduction, preparation. And then the main concepts will be there. What will be the teacher activity and the learning activities, or we can state that the learning experiences. And last column, we can see how do we assess. And then the recapitulation and home assignment is coming. So this is all about the Herbartian steps, but now we are emphasizing the constructivist approach to teaching learning process. And here you can see that various types of activities. That thing we can call it as learning experiences. Why do we call it as experiences is that while going through each activity, the learner is able to get some kind of experiences which is useful in their daily life, or they can state what they have achieved after each activity. And then comes the importance of the teacher's diary, that is the lesson plan. A teacher can do the work in a period according to available time. So time constraint can be over by keeping a teacher diary. A teacher can study or revise and prepare before teaching so that he or she does not lose track of the matter to be taught. And the next one, in a diary, the teacher notes down different activities or anecdotes occurring in a class. And next comes, a teacher can note that how class preparation or class teaching is taking place, and teacher enters the classroom with confidence, with a thorough understanding. A teacher can organize the teaching work in a better way. A teacher is able to read books and reference material that they are applying various types of resources. And coming to the next aspect, that is the classification of materials and resources. We have stated that a teacher can use various types of resources. For this, a teacher can use audio aids, visual aids, audio visual aids. So here we can state that the projected or the non-projected aids the teacher can use. And nowadays we will tell about the audiovisual, that is the digital resources the teacher can use. So different types of resources, not only the main resource, what the student is seeing in front of their eyes is the teacher itself. So the personality of the teacher is an important aspect. How a teacher is able to demonstrate to his or her students the various teaching points. Next, we are going to discuss about the principles related to the selection of materials and resources. While selecting any material, the first one, that each selection should be made according to the concrete explanation of the concept. So we know that the concepts can be divided into major concepts and minor concepts, or we can divide the concepts into the concrete concepts and the abstract concepts. So how a teacher is going to give the explanations for the abstract concepts? Always we know that for the abstract concepts, the teacher may not be able to get a particular teaching aid. But how the teacher is going to give the explanation of the abstract concepts is an important thing. Sometimes through some kind of activity or some kind of experiential learning, the teacher can explain the abstract concepts. Next one, use teaching learning aids that are for teaching the particular concepts. It should not deviate from the concepts. Next, an abstract concept can be related to concrete, relevant, and best aids are those that promote taking the steps appropriate to the type of objective sought. Then the teacher should employ materials and resources that are appropriate to the teaching of the underlying concepts. So here we can see that there are various principles including for the selection of materials and resources. When we think of the other principles, we can see that when a concept of the coordination of movements in a skill to be taught, a movie in slow motion frequently serves best. Next one, the age used for the teaching of the habit should be appropriate for the teaching of concepts. The use of printed material will only be meaningful to the extent that it recalls concepts associated with the printed books. So we can see that there are different principles that the teacher has to keep in mind while selecting materials and resources. So without a meaningful linkage between the concepts and the teaching aids, that selection will not be appropriate. There should be a meaningful linkage between the concepts and the teaching aids and or the resources. And next we are going to discuss about the actual classroom teaching. What is happening in the actual classroom? In this context, we have to concentrate on two important things, that is observing classroom teaching and teaching style and behavior. So, when we look at the pre-service teacher training program, we are sending the learners for observation of the actual classroom teaching. What they are observing? They are observing the classes taken by the skilled teachers, how they are teaching. And next one, the teaching style and behavior of the teachers. This is an important thing. What is the teaching styles of each teacher? When we think of the teaching styles, we can see that whether a teacher is a democratic teacher or an autocratic teacher or an authoritative teacher. So different styles are there for a teacher that is adopted in the classroom. And when we look at the actual classroom teaching, what we can see that the teaching takes place in three phases. We can say that pre-active phase, the during active phase and the post-active phase. So let us see what are the different phases of teaching. The first one, the pre-active phase. What is happening in the pre-active phase is that in the pre-active phase, alertly the teacher is selecting the content, what type of activity should be there, what type of teaching aid should be there. All these things are considered in the pre-active phase. And during the active phase, what is happening? How the selected things are going to implement in the real classroom situation. And then comes the post-active phase, that how the teacher is doing the reflection on her own activity, on her own teaching styles. All these things are important, and what type of assignments are giving in the classroom. That is also an important aspect. And next we are going to discuss about the desirable behaviors in teaching. And here I am quoting the desirable behaviors put forward by N.L. Gage. There we can classify it as warmth, cognitive organization, orderliness, indirectness, ability to solve instructional problems, control over the content. Let us see what do we mean by this warmth. This warmth, it is an affectionate thing, how the teacher is approaching the students, how the teacher is considering the feelings of the students, how the teacher is supporting the students. This is an important aspect. And coming to the next thing, that is the cognitive organization. What is important is that how the teacher is intellectually grasping of the content and how the teacher is presenting the content in front of the learners. So this is the way how the teacher is presenting. There may be the disorganized content, how the teacher is going to organize the content, how the teacher is going to present the content in the real classroom. That is very much important. And the next one, we can see the orderliness. The order of the presentation of the content is an important thing. And the indirectness, what type of instructions giving to the learners, that is an important thing. And ability to solve the instructional problems. And in a classroom, we know that during the teaching learning process, some kind of problems may arise. It may be in the form of the doubts, how the teacher is going to clarify the doubts of the learners, or it may be the conflict between the teacher and the students based on something. So these are some of the things that is important. And the content over, the mastery over the content is an important thing. The control over the content, that means the mastery of the content. The subject competency of the teacher is an important aspect in any transaction of lesson planning. Now we will discuss about the students' participation in the teaching learning process. So we can say that how we can engage the learners. After the presentation of each content, we can ask the learners some questions. So react naturally to the learners. Ignore some trivial, unexpected behavioral problems or the questions of the learners. Be firm and do not hesitate whatever doubts the learners are telling, and then do not hesitate to acknowledge that if some doubts the teacher may not able to clarify, there the teacher has to accept that one. And normally we know that in classroom, the teacher will enter with 6 masters. Who are the masters? We know that there are the 6 techniques like what and why, when, how, where and who. These are the 6 masters or the honest serving men in the hands of the teacher. So when we look at these 6 serving honest men, what we can make in mind is that how the teacher is going to use these 6 serving men in a classroom in order to expand the content or to get response from the learners. That is an important thing. And this questioning, that with the 6 serving men, the teacher is questioning in the classroom. While questioning how the students are responding and how the teacher is giving feedback, the feedback may not be in the home assignment alone, the classroom situation. The feedback, it is the flow of information about performance. So how a teacher should give the feedback. And when we think of the feedback, we can see that there are different types of feedback like the positive feedback, the negative feedback and the mixed feedback. So what type of feedback the teacher is providing? Whether it is positive feedback, the positive feedback denotes that it is in the constructive way. The learner will get the suggestions in a constructive way. The negative feedback sometimes impede the progress of the learner or the ability of the learner to express openly in the classroom. And in the mixed feedback, there is the mixture of the positive and the negative feedback. And the next part, what is important, how the teacher demonstrates in teaching. So this demonstration part, that select the learning task which requires demonstration, spell out specific objectives, spell out the instruction is important, identify the appropriate learning resources, put questions in front of the class, provide opportunity for post demonstration and then repeat a demonstration by a learner and evaluate the process of demonstration also. Then we can see that effective guidance should be provided for the classroom practices. For that, the teacher should stimulate the professional growth, selection and revision of objectives of education, development of materials and instruction, development of better and more effective methods of teaching, evaluation of instruction, aiding the novice teacher to become an effective teacher, distributing and allocating work to teachers. So here in curriculum transaction, what all things we have discussed is that what do we mean by curriculum transaction, how the teacher can be considered as a manager, what are the basis of the development of curriculum, and how the teacher should select the each resources and what type of feedback a teacher has to use, and how the teacher has to develop or to be guiding to become an effective teacher. Hope that you might have enjoyed to become an effective teacher. Thank you.